Joanne for Zamperelli 2FM. Good morning. Now, we all love good food and a good ride, but there is a lot more to life than just stuffing your face and, well, each other. By putting the right things into our bodies, we can get the most out of them. Now, in studio with me now is Joanne Faulkner, who is going to explain why she believes your diet and attitude can help harness your sexual energy.
That's right.
Very interesting.
That's right.
I've never heard this before. It sounds like great crack, but before we get to the righty stuff, tell me briefly how you got into Chinese medicine and then what the link was into food.
Yeah, so I travelled a lot from when I left college. So I travelled around India, Nepal. I did lots of different practices. And my food experience was I was 19 and living in Israel. And I was the commis chef, I suppose, for 800 people. So I would have to provide all the veg for the chefs and the salads for 800 people. So that was for about a year. I was a shepherdess as well. So I had lots of work living on the land. And that was the introduction to food and really understanding food and people and how people interacted with food. And then throughout my travels, I came across Ayurveda, yoga, Buddhist meditation, and I was just really drawn to traditional Chinese medicine and specifically Shiatsu, which is like a Japanese version of Chinese medicine. And they look at the body holistically. So for me, it's a language for me to understand my body, really simply. And it's complementary to any other kind of medicine. Very interesting. Even 3,000 years ago, they understood that the stomach and the spleen, and when I talk about the spleen, I mean spleen, duodenum, pancreas, has got a link to sugar. So in Chinese medicine, if you're craving sugar, there's something going on with your spleen. And in Western medicine, that would be telling you that your insulin, which is produced by your spleen, is out of balance. So in Chinese medicine, they would say, okay, well, then you don't need to give it such sweet foods like chocolate, but you do need to give it kind of like slow release sugars. So that would be kind of brown rice, quinoa, and also the color is really interesting. So kind of carrots, sweet potatoes, butternut squash, all of those orange foods will feed our stomach and spleen and put that back in balance, because then that has an emotion. So the emotion that goes with stomach and spleen can be kind of craving, addiction, satisfaction. So you often find that people get that addiction to chocolate because it gives them a satisfied feeling.
I hope my husband is listening to this. He cannot put the biscuits down. He just can't. And once he starts, he can't stop. And he's a very fit and healthy guy and doesn't drink much, but he just has this thing with sugar.
So then you want to look at the emotional thing. And what the stomach spleen likes is it likes touch. It likes hugs and it likes actual physical flesh touch.
He's a Klingon.
So there you go.
He's a Klingon. Okay, now your new book, Good Food, Better Sex. It's full of ideas on how to love and care for your body. But you say that if a person can learn one thing, it should be how to circulate sexual energy. Can you tell me how to do that?
Yeah. So,
great.
Yes, because when I talk about sex, so this book, everybody wants to know how to have better sex. And this book does do that. It gives you actual things to eat and practices to do. The tools. But you have to remember it starts with ourselves. So sex isn't about the act. It's really about the passion and energy that you have for life. Our body reproduces every day. It's not about having babies, about having that physical reproduction. It's about reproducing at a cellular level. So often in the animal kingdom, when an animal, say a female animal, gets past childbearing years, they drop off and die. You know, your function is finished. So I'm 51 and I don't really want to drop off and die. So
that's good.
That's good. So I want to keep that kind of sexual energy and that reproductive energy going. So what you do is you take your attention down. If you want, you can just, even when you're sitting here, you can rock on your sit bones and just take your attention down to your genital area. That's what you do. And then you get that kind of warmth and that passion going. You breathe it up the spine, over the top of the head, and down over the front of the body. And there's an area just below your belly button called your dantian. And that's, if you like, your battery storage for your body. So all your energy is stored there. So if you have chronic fatigue or anything that you're really lacking in energy, taking your attention down to there, breathing it up the back of the spine, over the front of the body, and storing it, even just putting your hands below your belly button and storing the energy there.
And how does food come into all of this?
In lots of different ways. So I talked a little bit about spleen already, and that's the orange, and that has a time of year, that's late summer.
Okay.
So in Chinese medicine, you have these 5 elements, and each element is linked to a pair of organs, which are yin and yang, and a flavour, a colour, and an emotion. So we've talked spleen, stomach, and the element there would be earth. So our sexual energy is often related to our kidneys. So our kidneys are responsible for, even in Western medicine, our hormones, which you can see has a then link to our sexual energy and our nervous system. So we got parasympathetic or sympathetic, and the sympathetic is the flight or fight.
Yes.
And when you're in flight or fight, you don't want to have sex. You
When
want to
you're
run
stressed.
away from the tiger.
Yeah.
Exactly, you're stressed.
Well, I wouldn't call it a tiger, but yeah, go on.
So what we want to do is we want to go into the parasympathetic. We want to be relaxed. That's when we have fun. That's when our juices flow. And that's when we're at our most receptive.
Okay, so relax,
Exactly.
people. Now, you say strict diets are not they're not part of your thinking. Why do you say we shouldn't follow a diet or exercise regime?
Because you're really listening to somebody else's advice. Now, I think advice is great,
Yeah.
but you have to have a sense of self as to whether that suits you or not.
Okay.
You know, if you look at somebody else's path and try to follow that, you're not really going to loving yourself. You're not really going to be loving yourself. So whilst everybody's got a good opinion, that's what they are. Nobody really has the finite answer on what is right or wrong for you. It's great that everybody's got lots of information, and I love the variety that there is. I mean, there's different ways. There's Ayurveda, there's Chinese medicine, there's yoga, there's all sorts of different diets. Everybody will tell you, and it's very, very confusing. So what I really try and do is you get back in touch with yourself. How do I feel? You ask yourself 2 questions.
Yeah.
If you have a boyfriend, if you have a girlfriend, if you have a partner or a really good friend, what's the thing they do is they ask, how are you? And how are you feeling? And very often we don't ask ourselves, how are you and how are you feeling? What do you need to eat? So in Chinese medicine, in this 5 elements, your cravings will tell you what is going on in the body. So salty flavors. So that might be kind of crisps or popcorn, or what's another salty thing?
Salt.
Yeah.
So that would be me now. What's wrong with me? Tell me.
So your kidneys. So maybe you're pushing yourself too hard. Maybe you're burning the candle at both ends. Your willpower.
My patience. Let me tell you in this place, Joanne, my patience. Oh, is that liver? Okay.
Because patience is around frustration and creativity.
So
and
booze, would you say, if I'm boozing too
I
much?
said boobs.
No,
No,
booze.
booze.
We'll get to that in a second. But, if if I have an old glass of wine to de-stress, that's, my liver saying.
Not wrong with anything in moderation.
Okay.
But if you are using a substance to meet an emotional need, then that's called
Dependency
or dependency. Yes.
Okay, now we love a bit of lube on the show, Joanne. I'm not going to lie. Most of the experts I have on tell listeners to use it at some point. But you are actually the first guest who can tell us how to make our own. Now, tell me, what is Love Lube and how should we use it? Is it something that I can whip up in my kitchen?
Yeah, it is.
Is
It
it?
is definitely something you can whip up in the kitchen.
Amazing. Do I have to take my pants off for this, or?
Well, it depends if you wanna eat it, because you could actually eat this. But if you want to eat it, but if you want to use it, then yes, you're still going to have to take your pants off.
Okay, go on. So,
but
how do
if
I
you're
make
in
this?
the kitchen and you make it, so you take some beeswax. You can buy beeswax in lots of good health stores.
Yeah.
A little block of beeswax. The actual amounts are in the book.
Okay.
And then you mix that with coconut oil, and it'll melt together with the heat of the the stove. It'll heat. And you blend them together. I wouldn't advise adding essential oils because actually taking those internally can cause kind of irritation, inflammation or scarring. I would just leave it at beeswax and coconut oil. And then you put it in a little glass jar, something with a lid, an old jam jar or something. And then you can have that at the bedside table. It will, when you take it off the heat, it solidifies.
So it's like a paste.
Yeah, it's more kind of
solid.
like, have you ever had one of those massage bars?
Yeah.
It's a bit like that. So if you're about to use it, you could put it on the radiator and warm it through, but far more exciting if you put it on the body and let the body's heat melt.
Okay. Handy to know. I'll be running to the shops to get some beeswax now this week. Now, the book isn't just for couples, really, and one part that would benefit any reader is the liver tantra. Will you tell us what that is?
Yeah, so you were asking before about kind of alcohol, and the liver is if you crave sour foods, and alcohol would come into that kind of category of sour foods, lemons, limes, because really when the liver is stagnant or clogged, you can often feel very stiff and not very flexible. And so the emotion, the opposite of flexible, is frustrated. So really, the liver tantra is about looking things straight in the eye. So the liver tantra is you actually start by looking at yourself in a mirror. And you actually kind of accept how you look, accept the parts that you don't like. And it's about loving yourself. So you can do this with a partner as well, is actually you hold eye contact with them. Because sex isn't about the actual act. Sex is about all the emotions that come before that. It's all about communication. And that kind of through the eyes, because the liver, the meridian of the liver opens out into the eyes. So really being able to look yourself in the eye and self-love is really what it's all about. That's the core.
There's some really intimate massages and stuff like that in the book, but you mention they're not foreplay or masturbation to climax. What are they about?
So that again is about communication. So I'm a Shiatsu practitioner. So Shiatsu is a bit like acupuncture without needles. So my job is to touch people all the time. But it's not sexual. It's a communication. Their body is talking to me and I'm responding to their body, going to the right place, moving out the meridians. And it's the same when you're in a partnership or even with yourself. We don't touch ourselves enough. But it doesn't have to always be sexual. It's really about communication and love and saying, I accept you and I love all of you, your wobbly belly, your skinny bum. Your big
bum, whatever. Absolutely. How difficult is it for people in Ireland to get their heads around, that sexual touching without penetration or climax? Like, is it possible? Is it?
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
I couldn't get
Practice
a publisher for this book.
Could you not?
No, I couldn't get a publisher. They said nobody is going to walk into a shop and buy this book. They'll be too embarrassed. People in Ireland are not there. That's what they said. So I said, I think you're wrong. So you can buy it online at joannefaulkner.ie, but that's it. And I'll be in Positive Nights launching it.
So why should people buy this book? Tell them.
Well, one, I think we're ready for it. We're all about kind of what we eat, what we drink. But the chi of earth is our sexuality. And that often is really
lost. It gets lost.
People don't want to talk about it. But in my practice, when they come to me, I have a lot of female clients, and they come with menopause. They come with problems of vaginal dryness, men premature ejaculation. They come with these physical problems that happen every day to everybody, and they're not discussed, and they can be really addressed with diet, just the same as high blood pressure and high cholesterol. Why not be healthy sexually as well?
Through our diet as well. It makes complete sense. Good food, better sex is not just a life goal that we should all pursue. It's a really interesting book that is out now. Joanne Faulkner, thanks for coming in to tell us all about it, and I wish you the best of luck.
Thank you so much. Thank you.